Chapter 7. Sven snapped his fingers, watching the flames dance in and out through his fingers. The flames were so much easier to control now that he was eating regularly and inhaling charcoal. He began tracing his fingers through the air, whipping the light from the tiny flame on his fingertip to draw shapes. "You're learning," Siren said as she stepped into the room. Sven stopped weaving the flame and turned toward the familiar voice. "The flames are easier. Pain makes the healing too difficult to control," Sven said, flicking his fingers, causing tiny spurts of light. Siren cocked her head in amusement. "Do you know what the average life expectancy is of mages?" Sven shook his head. 6 years. She said. Sven looked up at that. "That can't be right." 6 years is average. The reality is that most mages die in 6 months, and then others live a little past a decade. "Do you remember feeling the call?" she asked. I don't know what you mean." "When you were laying on that floor in agony, you felt it." Sven looked down at his hands, remembering the feeling. "You see, if you don't please the gem, then it gets bored of you and begins to call another to come and get it. When you stabbed Ramulel, I think the gem liked it." "What are you talking about?" Sven asked. "Well, I suppose I don't exactly know what your gem likes. You can tell you know. You can feel what it likes and what it doesn't." "You mean the magic talks to you?" Sven asked. "No, nothing so conclusive," Siren said as she began flipping a coin between her fingers. "It's more like a feeling. Eventually you can't tell the difference between your feelings and its feelings." "Are you saying that it takes over you?" Sven asked. "No, but if you ignore what it wants, then it starts searching for someone else who can give it what it wants." She said, "So it's either do what it wants or it finds someone to kill you," Sven said, flicking the flames between his fingers. "Sounds like it takes over to me." A clang echoed through the cage as a coin bounced through the iron bars. "Pick it up," Siren said angrily. Sven could feel the pull to pick up the coin. He was pretty sure that compulsion was part of her magic. He struggled as long as he could before snatching up the coin. Immediately blood pooled out of his bicep as a stab wound opened up. "Control it," Siren hissed, eyes staring at him hungrily. Sven clutched at his arm, screaming in agony for only a second before the wound sealed up. His eyes shot up bloodshot toward his pile of charcoal. He reached and pulled a pinch, snorting it up into his nose. "I don't understand why I need to control it. I don't see the point," Sven said, snarling. "You don't?" Siren asked as she began flicking a coin between her fingers. "I thought you were smarter than that. What have we been talking about?" "I don't know what you want from me. Please just let me go," Sven said through clenched teeth. "You see, my one-eyed friend, you probably only have 6 months to live once you leave this hole. The less people know about your powers, the better. If they know that you're a healer, then they tend to put quite a few more bullets into you in order to keep you down," she said, staring at the coin in her hand. "Healers are harder to kill, but not that hard. What do you care how many bullets they put in me?" "I care because we need you," she spat, throwing the coin into the cage. "Pick it up!" she shouted, her anger dripping like venom. Sven stared for a moment as the compulsion hit him and he snatched the coin. White-hot lances moved in and out of him as 7 holes opened up in his chest, legs, and back. He screamed as they began knitting together, but not fast enough. His body spasmed and he grabbed a handful of charcoal, inhaling deeply as blood poured out of him. Darkness began creeping in on the edges of his vision just before he blacked out. Sven awoke to several pains racking through his body. He sat up in his cell and clutched at his chest. There were bandages there. He tore at them and found that several round pink and purple scars dotted his body. He rubbed his nose and his fingers came away black. Someone had been putting charcoal dust in his nose. Sven turned as he heard scuffling and saw a small figure limping out of the cavern. "Wait," he croaked, his voice thick and dry. "Please help me." But the figure had already left the room. Sven stumbled over to a bucket near his cot. It was filled with stale, warm water, which he drank greedily. At least an hour passed before Siren walked in. "Do you know how long it's been?" Siren asked. "No." Sven croaked. 3 days. We almost lost you. They had to force a tube down your throat to feed you just so you'd have enough strength to heal yourself. We now know that you don't heal well when you're asleep or unconscious." 3 days, Sven said, holding his hand to his head. He could vaguely remember flashes of pain as people held him down. Hunger racked through him, but he knew better than to ask for food. "We kept you alive this time, but our patience is growing thin. We have a timeline, and your time is rapidly running out," Siren said as she began flipping a coin through her fingers. "What do you want from me?" Sven spat. Siren's lips twitched up into a smile, but only for a moment. "We want you to do whatever we ask of you. If you do, then you'll be given something very precious." "I don't want anything, I just want to get out of here." "If that's what you really want, then just do what we need you to do, and you'll be as free as any mage, but we can offer you a different kind of freedom," Siren said, flicking her coin back and forth between her knuckles. "You see, even mages have laws they have to follow. But what if you could make the laws? What if you had power enough to bend even other mages to your will?" Siren asked. Sven looked up, blinking in disbelief. "What makes you think that the second I get out of here, I won't turn on you?" Sven spat. "The same reason that I didn't turn on my master when I was in your position." Sven shook his head in disbelief. "You mean that?" "Yes, everyone we recruit was once put in a cage just like you. Only some of us don't have the luxury of healing. Our beatings stayed with us for weeks," she spat. "You have no idea what the politics for mages are like in this city. Without us, you won't last 6 months, but if you join us, then we can keep you safe." Sven sat for a long moment, absorbing what he'd just heard. "Is this really happening?" he thought. "Why is this happening to me?" Sven looked into the corner, now empty, where he'd stacked the burned bodies of the children, and a tear streamed down from his one good eye. The bodies were gone, but the pain washed over him anew. "Just tell me what I have to do," he said, dropping his head. A metal ping resounded from the iron bars. "Control it," she said coldly. "All I need you to do is control it." "What difference does it make? No one will find out. How could they?" Siren paused for a moment. "Did you know that at my first ball I was cut 3 times? They did it and kept tabs on me to see how fast I would heal. They wanted to know what my second power was. These people want to destroy you, and the sooner you realize that I'm trying to help you, the better off we'll be," she said, as she motioned her head toward the coin on the floor of his cell. Sven looked at the coin and felt his guts twist up inside him. He felt sweat trickle down the side of his face, stinging his one good eye. "Pick it up," Siren said, keeping her tone flat. Sven felt the pull calling to him, urging him to obey the command. He felt a trembling hand reach out and grab hold of the coin. A stinging sensation opened up on his arm, and a trickle of blood fell down his fingertips. He stared at it, feeling it itch, but this cut was nothing compared to what she'd put him through before. 7 days, she said. Sven looked up at her confusion on his face. 7 days is how long that should take to heal. Don't let it heal a moment sooner, and I'll unlock your cage. That's all? Sven asked. Let me give you some friendly advice. Don't snort any charcoal. It'll just make it harder to control it, she said as she walked out of the cavern. Sven snapped his fingers, igniting a dancing flame that encircled his hand. He stared at the cut and could feel himself holding the magic back. The urge was strong, but he fought it. He felt himself reach for some charcoal, but then stopped himself. He didn't know if she was telling the truth, but he didn't want to risk it. He tried to burn himself with the flames, but nothing happened. He had found that he couldn't hurt himself with them, no matter how hard he tried.